All right, we are working on carp bait, and this is a strawberry gelatin dough carp bait. And probably the most important thing, first off, is to just gather and prep all your ingredients. So, starting right off, you need a dry mix that is 1 cup of cornmeal and 1 cup of flour. You want to put that in the same bowl, and then just take a fork or something like that, and you want to get it well mixed, well distributed, so that you've got kind of a even mixture between the flour and the cornmeal. The other things that you're going to want to have prepped are 2 cups of water, and then you're going to need, of course, your strawberry gelatin, and you will need sugar and some vanilla. So we're going to get this mixed up, get our other ingredients prepped, and then we'll show you the process for finishing out the dough. All right, so we've got our 2 cups of water in, and we've brought it up to the point where it's ready to boil. You want you just want to bring it up to a simmer. For the sake of time, we went ahead and brought it up to that point because we didn't figure you guys wanted to sit around and watch waiting for a pot to boil. But to the simmering water, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. I mean, this isn't, you're not feeding your family with this, you're feeding carp. So it's not a precision operation, but you want to be close. So there's our sugar. And then you're going to add a tablespoon of vanilla. I would recommend, since again you're feeding this to carp, I would recommend cheap vanilla, not your wife's expensive baking pure Madagascar vanilla or anything like that, unless you just want to get hit in the head with the pot that you're using. And then the last thing that we are going to add to that is going to be the gelatin mixture. You want about 3 ounces. Now we got the family pack, which is 6 ounces, so we just we're using half the packet. You're going to add that to the water as it's coming up to a boil. And you want to make sure that you're stirring this as it goes in so you get a good mix on it. You don't want anything clumping up yet. So there we go. Got our gelatin in there. We're going to give that a little time to mix up. We're going to just keep stirring, keep stirring, keep stirring. And then we're going to let that water kind of come back up to that simmering boil there. This is where we start to see a little activity on the top. And there we go. So it's starting to bubble and boil again. I'm actually going to back that off just a little bit, because what we don't want it to do is sort of foam up and boil over when we start adding the dry mixture. So this is our dry mixture of flour and cornmeal. And what you're going to do, you're just going to, you want to cover the top. You can see how it starts to kind of sort of foam up there. And you're going to kind of wait till you see the water, the gelatin mixture start to sort of break through that, and give it a little, gonna keep stirring. And then once you've got that kind of mixed in, and there's not really any more floating on the top, you're going to add another layer. Here. Keep stirring, keep mixing, and you're just going to slowly add this little by little, getting it mixed through the what would you call this, the paste. You're kind of mixing it into a paste right now, and it should really start to thicken up. Okay, yeah. See, it's taking a little longer to get that thoroughly mixed in. So you want to make sure that you do a good job so that you don't have some big dry packets of cornmeal or flour in the middle of this that's just going to crumble. At the end, you want a dough that is going to stay on your hook well. So we're going to add the last of our mixture in here. You can see obviously it's not going to start boiling again. It's thickened up pretty nicely. And we're just going to start folding that in. And this is where it's going to really start taking on that dough texture. I'm going to back that heat off. And now is when you really got to kind of start mashing it up there and folding it really good. And you want to get a nice doughy texture. Using a good non-stick pot is helpful here because the dough comes away from the sides very easily. Excuse me. And you're eventually going to, there's two of us, so we'll actually split this into two portions and roll it into a ball, store it in a Ziploc baggie, and put it in the fridge, the refrigerator, in order to cool. And then once that's done, you can use whatever sort of terminal tackle you're happy with. We usually go with like a number 2 hook, and if we're fishing in some current, we'll put on usually either an egg sinker, or you can even use a bullet sinker like you would use for a Texas rig plastic worm. You want to use something the line's going to move freely through, though, because you want that fish to be able to grab that bait and start to move off with it without it feeling a whole lot of resistance. So there, we've got it mixed really well. Doesn't seem to be any unmixed portions in the middle of the dough. And so what we will do with that now is we will take it completely off the heat, set it aside, and we are going to let that cool until we can handle it safely. Once it's cooled to that point, we will form it up into a ball, put it in the refrigerator, let it finish setting up overnight, so that we have it's almost kind of a sticky Play-Doh sort of consistency when you're done with it. And it holds its shape well, it stays on the hook well. The red coloring helps it to stand out, and the carp really seem to like the mixture of the strawberry and the cornmeal and the vanilla. We've had pretty good luck with this, and every once in a while we'll have the occasional catfish that'll come by and grab it as well. So it's definitely not the best catfish bait in the world, but it'll even work for those if they're in the area. So we're going to let that cool, and then we will portion it into 2 Ziploc baggies, drop it in the fridge, and we're ready to go. All right, so we've let it cool off. It's still a little warm, but it's easily cool enough to handle. We're getting that kind of rubbery texture that we wanted to feel. And so now we're going to go ahead and break this apart. It will stick to your hands a little bit, but not really bad. It tends to stick more to itself. And it becomes less likely to stick to your hands as it cools. But we're just going to kind of shape it into a nice ball sort of shape here. And this will actually go a long way. It'll last a good while. And then I'm gonna let you pick that up, because I'm gonna try to keep all the dough on the inside of the baggie. So just kind of flatten that out, drop it right in sandwich baggie there, and we should be able to zip that up. Same thing with this one. Get as much of that out of there as we can. Make my wife happy. And get it shaped really good. And you flatten it out a little bit, it'll go into the baggie a little easier. And there we go. And we will seal those up, put them in the fridge, and they will be ready to roll come tomorrow. All right, so this is set up in the refrigerator overnight. You're just going to pinch off a lump. We actually are using bigger hooks than we normally would because we weren't able to find our smaller ones, but just an impromptu trip out here to bank fish. but you're just going to mold it into a ball or a teardrop shape. Big thing is you want to make sure that you kind of cover that whole hook, and it's pretty firm. You'll have a little bit stick to your hands. We always keep a old hand towel around to wipe off on, but it'll stay on the hook pretty well. But it's not something you really want to fling with a big overhand cast. It's a lot better to sort of just lob this out and then set your bait runner or your drag, whatever the case may be. If I don't fall in the river, I should be good. That's pretty much it right there. You're just gonna let it settle to the bottom and then set your drag, or in this case we've got our bait runners, and we'll just set it in the rod holder and hope that something comes along and takes a bite.
All right, everybody, that's our recipe for the carp bait that we'll be using for the next few videos. If you're wanting to see how well it works, you can join us this coming Friday and several more videos down the road on how well we do on catching these big old carp, trying to catch a trophy one that's going to be 34 inches. Now, we made some modifications to the recipe as we were going along this journey, one of them being adding corn to the batter after it's been cooking. As you're folding it in, trying to get it towards the last step, add maybe a drained can of corn to it. We think that really helped with getting the fish to bite more, especially if you're trying to do some kind of chum slick. Because what we like to do is we'll get to the location, we'll take 2 cans of cheap store brand corn, and we'll toss them out there, and that'll usually get the carp in there pretty quick. And if you're consistent with it, you want to go several times a week, same time of day that you'll be fishing, go over to that spot, toss out a can of corn, do that several days in a row, and the carp will be expecting that, and that helps to bring them into that location. But if you do that, adding corn to the dough bait and kind of folding that in, like chocolate chips, when you're making chocolate chip cookies, you add it into the dough and fold it in. That seemed to help get them to bite more often. We also made the transition from using a single hook to using a size 6 treble hook, and that seemed to help get the hook set better. It also made it a smaller package overall, and it gave the bait more surface area to stick to. And I'm going to emphasize, make sure to drain the corn when you add it, because otherwise it's going to cause the dough to become too gummy and it won't stay on the hook quite as well. If you're going to add the corn juice in, you could substitute maybe a cup of the water that we use in the first step for that drained corn juice, and then add the corn in later. That might help. We haven't tried that yet, but we did add it in, and we had to add some more cornstarch and flour when we added the corn in at the end with the juice, because it caused it to be way too runny. So that helped to kind of make that a little bit more like that Play-Doh consistency that we were looking for. But again, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Hope y'all go out and make this and catch some big old carp. If you do, you can go to our socials on Facebook or Instagram, tag us. We'd love to see that if y'all catch some big ones on this bait. But it works really well. We've been using it for years. So y'all can see us catch some big old carp starting this Friday. We've got several videos of that. But you can also expect to see some stuff from the river now that my dad's in an area where he can be out on the kayak again. And Gunnersville content will be coming in shortly after that. So we're really looking forward to sharing that with y'all. I hope y'all have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will see you in the next one.